Mr. Singh, you wanted to add?
And today, that has been one of the major drawbacks in that we do not have a proper, as Mr. Greenleaf said, accounting arrangement to take into account all these essential services that forests provide. What would it take, for example, in terms of money to prevent erosion from taking place? If we build a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar highway and we do not have vegetation to prevent the movement or to at least slow down the movement of soil, it would require very expensive remedial works, so that there are emergent ways and means of taking it into account. It's just that before, we have not paid a whole lot of attention to that. We have taken these services for granted, and it needs to be factored into the decision making. And if you follow what is happening on the international sphere, is that there's a lot of talk about a green economy, all right, where it is being realized that there are a whole lot of income earning livelihood opportunities, sustainable ones at that could be had by paying closer attention to nature, all right, to taking the long-term perspective, because that too is a critical consideration, the short-term versus long-term perspectives. By taking the long-term perspective, you can see that there are a lot of viable opportunities up ahead if we try to achieve that balance, take decisions based on a proper evaluation, a proper understanding of all the services that can be derived from a natural ecosystem.
Calder LIMA, your thoughts?
Pretty much it's all been very well covered by the two gentlemen that spoke before, but basically, our outlook at Trini Eco Warriors is there has to be more accountability on the part of industry and development. The naturalists in our country are not the ones that we have to look at with regards conserving forests, because they're doing it, they're interested in that, and they're also interested, most of them are either business owners or work in a business, and of course are integrated into the economic country, as it were. However, some of the industries and businesses in Trinidad and Tobago take a very irresponsible approach to their treatment and dealings within the forest environment and what's happening, the way they develop it. I don't want to call any names, but we were discussing, somebody mentioned earlier, quarrying that's taking place in Trinidad. The previous administration removed all environmental controls on quarrying. You now can start a quarry without a CEC if it's under 150 acres. All you need to do is start digging. There is no sort of regulation to say how the quantity of earth that's being removed, that's not being used, what is done with it. It's not being removed and dealt with properly. It's just being dumped over the side of the mountain and allowed to destroy the forest below and fill the riverbed with mineral rocks and whatnot. So I think that industry needs to be heavily regulated. Development needs to be watched much closer by the powers that are enacted by our government, the EMA for one, Forestry Division, to make sure that the people who are developing these areas are following the guidelines.
Okay, let's focus on quarrying for a little while, because that entire issue has left a very bad taste in everybody's mouth. When we were in the heat of the construction boom back in 2005, 2006, and the decision was made to remove the controls on quarrying from the EMA and to just open up, all of that land to quarrying. I don't think anybody foresaw that people were going to be so irresponsible. But then maybe we should have realized that people are by very nature greedy and will exploit a situation. So now we have this horrific scar across our landscape, particularly in the Northern Range area, and there is forest there that we would never, ever get back. Let's tussle that for a little bit. Mr. Singh. Yeah,
oh, sorry, that's a pet topic of mine. Sorry to interrupt, but this is one of my pet peeves. Actually, it was 2007, 2008 when the EMA Act was amended. It was amended by Emily Gaynor Dickford, brought the movement to Parliament. I'll call names. And she said that the changes would have no significant impact, so it basically scooted through Parliament. Well, this was in
the year
response.
before that, though, Dr. Lenny Saith opened up gave out a whole stack of licenses to anybody who wanted to be a quarrier to just start quarrying, on
Right.
top of all the illegal quarrying that was taking place.
But
at the time.
they still had to get a CEC at that time, which is a Certificate of Environmental Compliance from EMA. So they at least had to try to quantify what their impact might be and what they might do about it. But then Sunway, good old Sunway, showed up and wanted a quarry. And the rules were changed so the quarry under 150 acres, which is every quarry in Trinidad and Tobago, would be exempt from EMA. That was announced about a month later. And this is all in the Hansard. You can look it up. If somebody wants to contact me, I can give you the page of the Hansard it's in. All of a sudden, then about a month later, Sunway got a take-or-pay 450 million TT contract, meaning they get paid whether they deliver aggregate or not, with a 5-year duration on the contract. So that works out to 7.5 million TT per month that is being paid right now, with a 5-year renewal clause, so it could end up being a $900 million contract. Right after that announcement, though, they realized, oops, you have to clear land to have that quarry. So then they went back and exempted land clearing of less than 150 acres from the EMA Act as well. And then a couple months later, the quarry opened.
Stephen, I'd like you to just, if possible, point out to people where that quarry is.
That is right down the hill from the Asa Wright Nature Center. It is in a watershed that provides drinking water to Arima. So if you're out there in Arima right now wishing your pipe wasn't empty, here's a perfect example of how you do pay the costs of bad environmental management.
If I may, we also in Trinidad Eco Warriors have had reports of from the directorship of Asia Wright Nature Center that the quarry encroaches on their property. And they have made numerous attempts at a complaint to the relevant authorities and whatnot, to no avail. So, that is what I mean when I say the industry itself needs stricter controls and enforcement, if we're to do anything.
Mr. Singh, in the face of all of this, what is a conservator of forests to do? I mean, it sounds as though you two have been hamstrung by changes to the regulations and the legislation.
Well, exactly, and if you will excuse me, I would like to probably adopt a technical perspective on this rather than the look at the decisions taken by the executive authority. Yes, the forests are impacted by the quarrying activity, and especially the fairly lax controls that exist. Our position in the Forestry Division is that we would like to see these areas rehabilitated, some sort of rehabilitation, because they can be put to good use where the public can benefit. We may not be able to return all those areas to nice forest cover that existed before, but some sort of recreational type facility, for example, could be established where the general public can benefit. But there is certainly a lot of opportunities for some of these the exhausted quarrying sites to be subjected to that sort of rehabilitation and therefore another type of use.
In response to something you just said, Mr. Singh, about the using, I agree with you 100%. If the quarry, we all know that we need to develop it. Development is a necessary part of our society. So, but with looking at it responsibly, you say to develop these quarry areas into recreational or other beneficial ideas for the public and so on. I agree with that. What has happened though is what many of these quarries have started and have actually taken already existing benefits to the public and destroyed them. For example, and going back to the Asia Wright Nature Center, that is a world-renowned bird watching
Bird
site.
sanctuary.
The reports that we get from the Asia Right Nature Center and the Brasso Seco community, the Paria village community, they tell us that the birds have left that area and have moved up to Brasso Seco. Most of the birds that were indigenous to that area that the bird watchers would go and see are now not there anymore. So the bird watchers that come from away that used to bring a source of income to our island, well, they have to go somewhere else now. But I mean, the fact is that the entire infrastructure is there already at Asia Right, and it has to now be moved because of this quarry.
Yeah, well, certainly we prescribe to the notion of protecting and preserving to the extent that you could what we have already. But as you say, there needs to be some sort of balancing of the different approaches. Development is necessary. We given that the quarrying is therefore a requirement. So I am not undervaluing the extent to which existing resources are being affected by quarrying. But as I indicated, certainly we need to look at that and also look at what happens after quarrying areas are exhausted.
To do what you're recommending, Mr. Singh, which is to turn these, I'm going to use the dramatic emotional language, these scarred parts of our bit of the earth, and turn them into something that could be commercially viable, that could bring, peace, happiness to the citizens and visitors as recreational facilities. You're talking about a serious injection of cash. I mean, to rehabilitate those places, it's going to cost a great deal of money. It's going to take a great length of time as well. Has there been any sort of a plan put forward to the division or any other government department that you're aware of that speaks to doing that kind of work?
As I said, that is the position of the Forestry Division whenever we are asked to give our views in the development of policy on quarrying and so on. That is the position that we have maintained. And I agree, yes, it is going to take some investment of funds and other resources to get it done. But as it is, by not doing anything, we also are paying a price in terms of water quality, the impact on biodiversity, and the loss of ecotourism potential, and and all those sort of benefits. So that the injection of funds would be well spent. It is a very sound investment for the future. But I agree with you, it will take some doing. It takes some proper planning and coordination in that, for example, if you're removing the topsoil from an area that is about to be quarried, you need to set that aside so it can then be respread over or reused on an area to be rehabilitated. So there are approaches that needs to be factored in that could ensure that we could still enjoy some long-term sustainable benefits from an abandoned or exhausted quarry site.